Hawaiian tattoos it's called Kakao Ika Uhi. Cacao, and obviously that kind of sounds like Tatau. So in Hawaii, that would be Kakao Ika Uhi, which means to strike on the black. That's what it means, like word for word, like to strike on the black. And tattoos in Hawaii were primarily done for genealogy and protection. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, but think about it. That's the main reason, because in Marquesas Island is for like wealth and notoriety, and rites of passage for Samoa. So in Hawaii, it was protection and genealogy. Now, let me tell you how the information was passed on in Hawaii. It was more vertical instead of horizontal, and that means it was passed through generations.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like the elders, the kapuna to the children and the ancestors that way, not to a community, like teaching, like how I'm doing right now. This is horizontal. But I would say the reason why it's a big reason why it's not working today vertically is because in today's world, there's not, like my children, they probably don't want to tattoo.
Yeah, it's not important. Kind of really like it's
kind of hard in the modern world, So we have to adapt. And that's important to know, because if you think about it, if information was passed vertically like that, every village, community, island in the same culture would have different information.
Yep.
Some would match and, would be the same, but some would be completely different. And that's where kauna comes in. And kauna is like a hidden meaning. That's what it means, like hidden meaning or layered meaning. And everything in Polynesia had kauna or meanings to it. Everything.
Okay.
It's kind of like spiritual. It could have to do with mana or descent, like your genealogy. A lot of different meaning, and you don't know. So it's oral tradition. It's just passed down. So a lot of the information that I'm going to be talking about is just what I learned. Yeah. It's what I learned from kapuna elders, books I read, studying in different ways, seminar, whatever. One interesting fact is a lot of times what they would do is they would chant, which is an oli, or prayer is pule. They would chant or pray while tattooing, and they felt that it was locking that prayer into the ink, into the skin permanently.
Yeah.
And that's where the protection came from.
Okay.
So when, there was a lot of battles going, back then, and that's where the protection came in. But also, why was genealogy so important? It's hard for us to understand this, but back then, our ancestors, they felt that they were all descendants from gods.
Okay.
I mean, that's where the Amakua comes from. They felt that, and Amakuas are gods or protectors or family guardians. So they felt that their lines were coming from their ancestors, which led straight to certain gods. And there was so many gods. I said 4. Those were the 4 like main ones.
But there's a bunch.
There's like hundreds, gods of everything. So, and it necessarily wasn't a religion. They say, the Hawaiian religion, it's just a belief, kind of like the natives, right?
Yeah, it's basically to keep you on your moral route,
with the earth, to connect with the earth, and remember your ancestors and genealogy.
Be humble,
and all that. Right?
Never take advantage.
So they would tattoo marks on their body, putting their genealogy and locking it in. It was very important for them. So here's an example of a tattoo. And right to the right, you could see really small an ankle tattoo, and it's certain triangles or shark's teeth, nihumano, and then diamonds. So this is sort of a way that they would look and see what they tattooed, and then they would find out why through stories and through different articles that they would read that was written by, or stories that the missionaries would write that were told by the Hawaiians. And so you can imagine that it's hard. It's hard to find the exact meaning of everything. But the ankle tattoo with the shark's teeth, that is a prime example of how the story of the Amakua.
Yeah.
So if you ever heard of the story, the woman went into the ocean and her Amakua was a shark.
Yeah.
And the shark wouldn't attack her. and because that's her Aumakua. And all of a sudden the shark came up and bit her on the ankle. And when she yelled out, "What are you doing? You know, you're Aumakua. This is me." The shark let go, made a mistake, but it said, "Oh, from now on, I could see my bite marks, and I'll know. I'll be reminded, you know, that that's you."
Yeah.
So there's that's a story that was told, and that's one of the reasons why protection is a meaning for the shark's teeth.
Okay, that makes sense.
And maybe they would, you know, tattoo around their ankles as, you know, a way to protect themselves.